The world is a big place that is shrinking exponentially. The people of the world appear to be so different from place to place, but once a person takes the time to understand the cultural barriers, people are as similar as you and me. This has been one of the biggest lessons I have learned through my global studies journey. I first began to be interested in travel when I went to Spain with Sewickley Academy in the summer after 8th grade. During the trip, I was exposed to all different parts of travel that excite me. We did community service work in a small village, stayed with local families in a residential town, and saw major sights around Madrid. By experiencing different aspects of Spanish life, I became intrigued by the culture and the thrill of being in a new place, but I was unsure of what this meant other than I loved to travel and I would take Spanish in high school. The summer after my freshman year, I traveled to Fiji to explore the culture and adventure that the country offers. For the first time in my life, I was truly thrown out of my comfort zone without the support of my family by my side. Being uncomfortable allowed me to explore myself in a way that I did not realize until now when I have the ability to reflect. The aspect of Fiji that made me the most uncomfortable was that it was my first encounter with true poverty. It was difficult for me to grasp the idea that a few planks leaning against each other could constitute as a home. As I began to talk with the Fijian people, what was even more shocking to me was the happiness and serenity that they had each mastered. They had little to nothing, yet they fully appreciated the beauty of their home and the beauty of their life, much more so than anyone I had ever met. This caused me to do some self-evaluation. I began to wonder how I, who had been given so much, could come to attain this euphoria. The answer certainly did not come overnight. In fact, I still do not really have the answer, but after my trip to Fiji, I pondered this question a lot. The next summer, I traveled to Jamaica with my youth group for a mission trip. We lived in a community center run by native Jamaicans and worked to build a church and worked in an orphanage. Even though I had already seen poverty in Fiji, the poverty in Jamaica struck me hard. Again, I could not believe the little the people had, yet how gracious and happy they were. What was different about this trip for me, though, was that I had the opportunity to work with children. Through their eyes, I was able to see that we are all the same once the barriers of culture come down. When I came home, I was presented with an opportunity to work with children in the Ambridge area. Because of my experiences, I knew that this was a great contingency for me. At first, working with the kids was extremely difficult because their schooling and upbringing was so different from mine, but I began to think of them the same way I thought of the natives of the different places that I had traveled to, as the same as me once I understood where they were coming from. I began to talk to Sue, the director of the program, to try to understand the kids better, and once I understood and could therefore relate to them, the walls came down. My junior year, I began to take classes for global studies. These classes quickly became my favorite classes because they were small in size, but they were a way to learn about a culture or current event without the expense of traveling or the boredom of reading a newspaper. In them, I learned about the Middle East and Southeastern Asia, two areas of the world that I did not have the opportunity to travel to and may not have the opportunity to learn about their culture otherwise. In both Contemporary World Issues 1 and Contemporary World Issues 2, being given the opportunity to analyze different world issues individually and then have to back our claims was a great skill to learn as well as interesting. I learned that even though I may see my ideas as foolproof or as being the best solution, there are other minds out there that can have valuable insight to my ideas, as well as come up with brilliant ideas that I never would have thought of. I also learned how to synthesize and articulate my solutions to world issues and the importance of doing such. The classes also built off of each other. In my classes that taught me about current world events, I was able to apply my knowledge of these prominent cultures to my analysis. I felt that in the combination of my classes and my travels, I had learned about almost every part of the world, but I wanted to learn more about Europe, so I decided to travel to Italy and Greece through National Geographic to complete my global studies requirement. Because I had come so far in learning about how to understand people and cultures, this trip was probably the most influential of all of my trips. There was so much going on in the EU at the time of my travels that the experience was even heightened. As a group, we put a lot of emphasis on being travelers and not tourists. Of course, we saw all of the must-see sights of Rome, Athens, and Delphi, but we also traveled off the beaten path to photograph, a pickup game of soccer, and even played some basketball with a group of locals. We were challenged to interview Italian and Greek-speaking locals about their day-to-day lives and went to an archaeological dig site in Athens so we could understand the clash of ancient history and modern life in these historical places. We were in Athens during the protests of the people against the Greek government, and one day, when there were no scheduled riots, our trip leaders took us to a spot at the base of the Parliament building where the protesters had been camping for months. We split up into groups and went out to photograph and interview. We got the story firsthand, and that was an invaluable gift. When I came home, the entire Euro crisis had blown up. There was talk of the EU just letting Greece fail, and because of my experience as a traveler, I had a different perspective that helped form my views. The people were real to me instead of just being a statistic on the newspaper. Because I understood the customs, my perspective on the current events changed. As I am about to graduate and move on to places that will further put me out of my comfort zone, I am grateful for the comfort that global studies has given me and myself. Because of global studies, I am looking forward to majoring in international relations in college and following a career path that allows me to pursue my passion of traveling and learning about different cultures and issues of the world. I have learned that in order to solve any issue, whether it be World War II, the Euro crisis, or the lack of desire for an average student to learn, one must fully comprehend the culture. In leaving SA and entering the real world, I challenge myself to meet new people, learn different religions, understand other customs, try out foods, listen to what others have to say, and above all else, be a traveler, not a tourist.